Hello and welcome to Radio Free Nintendo. I'm Mad. I'm also joined today by Mr. John Lindemann.
It is great to be here, James.
It's awful to be here, John. And Mr. Greg Lay.
Ahoy, hoy, everyone.
And Mr. Guillaume Vayette.
Hello, hello.
This is our second intro because I recorded a segment with these guys earlier today on this date, June 27th, 2024, as part of episode 881, in which we did an email segment that went completely off the rails because I suggested The Legend of Zelda should be renamed The Legend of Theodore Rex. And at that point, the email went completely sideways and nothing good happened. But you may never get to hear it. Why? Because I, in Audacity, looking at you, decided to record on the wrong recording device. And why didn't I catch it? Well, because I'm injured right now. I wasn't paying as much attention as I should have. And also, I did test it. And it came up okay. And then suddenly it didn't come up okay. So that sucks. If we include it, it will be included after the episode. Because it is very echoey. And it is not up to our quality that I would expect an episode to be. So I apologize. I'll try not to do it again. I'm pretty upset about it because that episode was very, very stupid. I mean, very stupid.
Yeah, you said and then at the point where you brought up Theodore Rex, it wasn't, it became not very good, but like it was. I don't think it was very good before either.
No. I didn't say it didn't become very good. I said it became stupid.
Oh yeah. Well, it was pretty dumb before too.
Was it? What did we start on?
The Baten Kaitos.
Oh yeah. I mean that was just because we realized very quickly we didn't have anything else to say. So instead we talked about Theodore Rex. It's fine.
Why is Namco? I don't know.
Well, what is Namco? When is Namco? Why is Whoopi Goldberg starring in a film with a cybernetic dinosaur? Who can say? But we're not.
That sounds amazing. Cybernetic dinosaur. He's animatronic.
Damn it!
Kind of
don't make it sound too good.
Yeah.
Don't make it sound too good. People might go watch Theodore Rex or try to because it's not on any streaming services.
But it's on YouTube.
It's on YouTube if you don't care about piracy, and clearly the owners of Theodore Rex don't. So we're going to do a little bit of new business. I don't really have anything this week, but Guillaume, you had some stuff you wanted to talk about.
Yeah, because a couple of weeks ago I was on vacation, and it was great, and I wish I was back on vacation, but unfortunately I'm back at work. But I'm glad that I'm here with you guys so that I can talk about all the video games that I played during vacation.
Hey.
Yeah, so I did listen to the episodes that I wasn't on, and I gotta say it was hard to not be able to protest when the Mega Man Game Boy games were called not very good.
Because they're not.
I think they're pretty good when that's what you had growing up with. Okay, so I guess like in that sense, having it on NSO is... Are
you going to allegory of the cave me about the Mega Man?
Well, what I like about some of the Mega Man Game Boy games is that actually the reduced screen real estate means that basically once you get the what's it called, the buster, the charge shot, like that thing takes up a significant amount of the screen. And the enemies are pretty big. They take a significant amount of the screen. Mega Man is pretty big. Takes up a significant amount of the screen. So basically, like, if you could just, like, keep jumping and charging and shooting, the levels are very easy. So it makes you feel good about your Mega Man playing skills. So as a kid, I needed that. And, I enjoyed... I owned 3 and 5. And so probably for that reason... I thought that those two were the best on the Game Boy. The first one was a little bit weird. The second one, I think that no one really likes. I think like the port was especially botched or something, but also
it's got a really bad reputation. The second one, which is perversely, that was the first one that I went to when they went on NSO, because it was the logic being, I never would have bought this on Virtual Console. I didn't, but I was never going to because it was so kind of poorly received. Even, some of the kind of retro reviews that you'd have when it was put on Virtual Console on 3DS were like scathing. So I was like, well, I never would have bought this, so let's try it. Kind of like when they put Castlevania Legends on there. So I didn't really intend to play through all of it, but it's quite short and easy, so I did end up ripping through the whole thing. And obviously it's cobbled together from bits of 2 and 3 on NES, so they are much better experience, those components in their original form, to say the least. But it was kind of put, as Castlevania Legends was to some extent, it was kind of a test for me of the kind of, the bad pizza thing. With classic Castlevania and classic Mega Man, even if it's bad, it still goes down okay with me. I think I just like those formulae enough as they are that I still kind of felt like it was worth going through in a pretty brief period of time, because it's definitely easier than the games that it's actually drawing from. I think the main thing that was original is the very end of Mega Man 2 on Game Boy. You get this sort of space station where the background is a kind of a reference to Dali with the persistence of memory, the melting clocks, because apparently time travel is part of the plot.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, so that was the unique part of that one. But as I think I did mention before, 4 and 5 I think were well regarded, certainly when they came out of Virtual Console and those games were sort of reviewed anew. I think 4 and 5 are the ones that score well. So and I already had I think maybe both of them, I can't remember now, on Virtual Console. But yeah, I will probably, I don't think I completed those though, so I might play through those again. But yeah, I kind of went backwards in terms of quality with that approach.
So on the plane, I played a little bit of 5, and it is very easy, but it is... So some of the things that struck me was that, wow, this game has way more slowdown than I remembered. Because these games, you're always charging the charge shot, and it's always, it just slows everything down to a crawl. As soon as there's one enemy on screen, the game chugs. So I didn't really remember that, but again, no way, that kind of makes the game easier. But the thing that might be lost, playing it today on the Switch, is that there was something really special about having full screen kind of character portraits or animated cutscenes, they don't look like anything today. They're not impressive today. But back then, when you only had a Game Boy, you only, it kind of felt it's almost like different hardware. Comparing Mega Man 5 with, Super Mario Land or something, you kind of felt oh shit, this is way more powerful than I thought it could be, I can almost convince myself that, I'm playing something almost on the level of a Super Nintendo. So yeah, I don't know. I have a lot of nostalgia for these titles. I think that 5 is probably still... Yeah, it's easy. It's worth going through, especially because, again, it's so short, it's so easy. But it's not 4 characters long, as you erroneously said on that one episode. Once you beat the 4 boss characters, you get kind of an interstitial mid-boss, and then you get 4 more stages to play.
Yeah,
through.
It's kind of strange the way it's done in the second one, because it only gives you the sort of the initial 4 to, you get the bit with 4 to choose from, and then you get a bit where you kind of, it's more like what you get at the end of NES Mega Man, where you're in that room where you go and fight the bosses again, but instead you go to different levels.
Oh, okay.
That's really weird. It just, I don't know why they made that, why they changed that in that way. You know what I mean? Because it's you just think it's so based on the NES Mega Man games. You follow the same conventions, but it's no, so this warp room is now a warp to different stages instead of just to bosses to refight them. I thought it was kind of strange.
Yeah, I didn't remember that. The 3 at least, and probably 4. Yeah, like it's more classic. It's more like, okay, 4 characters, then you got the one kind of weird fake out stage, then you get 4 more stages to go through, and then you've got the final stage. 5 also has like this particularity of being the only one that has a little bit of like has some secrets in it. The 4 later stages, there's like, if you notice the secret at some point, like you go off a little bit the beaten path, and you can find a piece of a device, and when you get all 4 pieces, you get a new ability or whatever it is. Like, I can't remember what it actually does. Like, it's probably something that doesn't do all that much. Like, it probably halves your usage of special weapons or something, but it's the only game like that in the series, and that's something that I associate more with Mega Man X, which had secrets in it. The Mega Man series itself, not really. Anyway, so there's that. I guess I'll go very quickly on this, but like one of the things that Karen and I, like one of our, I guess, vacation traditions now is that we see an arcade, we go spend way too much money at that arcade. And so Victoria, British Columbia has downtown, right next to our hotel, has an arcade called Quasar's Arcade. And so we went there, and it was kind of amazing. It had way more games than I would have thought. It had, like, stuff from the 80s, a lot of stuff from the 90s, a surprising number of pinball games, probably like 12 tables or something. It was, pretty good. And so I finally, and I had been looking for this for a long time, and, like, it's one of those machines that if you don't see it in real life, it's not something that's easily emulated, I suppose. I played Baby Pac-Man, which is the machine. Yeah, the machine that has, like, on the top, you've got, you're playing a video game. You're playing basically Pac-Man. But this version of Pac-Man has these 2 kind of like gutters at the bottom of the labyrinth. And so when you go down them, then it transfers to a pinball table. Like, you've got the video game screen sitting on a pinball machine. And so when you go down those gutters, then the pinball comes out, and now you're supposed to be playing a game of pinball. So it was very cool to finally get my hands on it, be able to try it. I played it, like, I put quarters in it twice, and then I was done because it kind of sucks. I don't like it. It was, I don't know if it was this machine in particular, or if it's just the way that this game is, but
it's I've played it before. It's a lot. It's
really hard. Like, I found that the ball would just go straight down between the paddles, way too often.
Yes.
And there's not a whole lot happening on that pinball table anyway. It's just basically you've got, like, I think like 5 switches or whatever at the top. Like, you can hit them. Like, there's not a whole lot happening. And so I would lose my money very, very fast, and then get frustrated, and then decide, like, I can go play something more fun. But at least now my quest is over. I've played Baby Pac-Man. I know what the deal is. I'm pretty happy.
So how do you control? I'm just looking at a picture of it. How do you control the flippers at the bottom?
There are side buttons. It's like a regular pinball table. So there's, if you can't Google an image right now and you're listening to this, like, there's like a little joystick sitting on top, like at the bottom of the pinball table, and that's what you control Pac-Man
with. And then, so the 2 white buttons at the side are for the flippers.
I think so. I'm not sure.
From what I'm seeing here.
Yeah. Anyway, so it's a weird thing. I'm glad I saw it. But most of my time was spent playing, like, various pinball games, including Attack from Mars. They had Attack from Mars. It's a great table that I've played on Zen Pinball before. It's got everything. It's got national stereotypes, the French, the Italians, the Americans. Good. Yep. also, and the British, probably more, we hope. And then, so everyone here is represented. And then you've got... They also had like these kind of newish Stern pinball tables. They had Deadpool, which I didn't try, and they had like a weird TMNT table that... these tables are weird. Like, they've got these nice LCD screens at the top for displaying various things, like not just your score, but also kind of like little video segments when you trigger stuff on the pinball table itself. But the TMNT one... It's like they had budget to create the characters in the, and they look like, I can't remember which style they went with, but it seemed to be like halfway between the 80s, late 80s cartoon and, whatever is current. So they had the budget to make them look good, but it seems like they didn't have an animator on the team. Because every time that, like, okay, you've triggered like this combat sequence, and all you see are the four turtles basically like getting off the couch from eating pizza or something, and you see it's like a motion comic. You basically just see them kind of slowly slide forward, and that's kind of like, oh, they're gonna get into a battle. Like, if you look that up, it's really weird, and it reminded me of the meme, the Simpsons meme, you got the dud, where people are inserting that weird smile that Homer Simpson makes when they're playing, what's that game, like the dating... anyway, look up the "you got the dud" meme, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But like, Homer does like this weird slow motion smile, and I guess I never noticed it watching that episode back in the day. But people noticed that it was kind of weird, and there are videos out there on YouTube of Homer making that smile, reacting to different things, and it's really, really creepy. And so the turtles are having that reaction, that creepy reaction of a slow forming smile. Anyway, the pinball itself, the table itself was pretty fun because you've got like a magnet at some point that just like the multi-ball is amazing because they're like multi-ball and then they give you all the fucking balls. I think that you have like 7 or 8 at the table at the same time, and as soon as you lose one, they replace it. And they've got this magnet spinning like a pizza thing or whatever. So when the balls are coming into play, they're being sent in whatever direction, because I guess it's like that scene in one of the early movies where Donatello's cutting pizza and setting it everywhere. I don't know. Like, it was actually pretty cool. So I enjoyed myself a lot. And I guess the final game I'm going to talk about is Captain America and the Avengers, which is a Marvel beat 'em up that you don't hear much about because it's not from Capcom or Konami. It's from Data East, who was not very good in my opinion. Was no Capcom, was no Konami. But this one I actually enjoyed a lot because it was perhaps a little bit more fair than something like X-Men actually by Konami. And it did a lot with like you can walk around, pick up characters, like pick up the enemies and throw them, including on like exploding barrels and stuff. And that's, I think, like it makes the game surprisingly fun. You can also just mash you can use, unlike the X-Men game, you can use your power however much you want. It doesn't damage you. So you just keep mashing the
spam.
Yeah, you just spam it, and whether you're Vision or Iron Man or whoever, you can just keep shooting lasers or what have you at the enemies. So it's pretty cool. And and other than that, so finally, after almost a year of not touching it, I'm now friends again with the Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom. We're now again on speaking terms. I had given up on it basically a year ago because Pikmin 4 was coming out, but also mainly because I had started the desert area and freaking hated it. I hate the Gerudo Desert in these games. I just hate it. Like, there's nothing more annoying than having to change armor every time it switches from night to day and vice versa.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, no, there is something more annoying, and it's when there's like an eternal sandstorm that makes it so that you can't see shit. That's worse. And that's what's happening in Tears of the Kingdom.
Huh.
So that sandstorm clears up when you beat the boss of that area.
Yes.
And I did that maybe a month ago, but I needed a break after that because like everything about that area just repelled me. I was not having fun anymore. But then I brought the game on vacation and I was like, okay, like time to try to enjoy this game again and do what I enjoy doing in this game, which is just like mess around, like explore, just see whatever I can find over, behind that mountain or whatever. And suddenly I was having fun again. And I accomplished a lot. I did a lot of the side quests that can be a great guide to, like, when you don't know what to do,
Yes.
There are ways that you can just mess around and just go blindly wherever and find stuff, but that is a very ineffective way of doing things. And also, I realized after I remembered that this game has the hero path thing.
Yes.
Like it includes it by default. It's not DLC.
The route you took, essentially.
Yeah. It shows you where on the map you've been. And so I checked that out and I realized that, wow, like it's very easy to kind of get turned around and end up just re-exploring the first area, the same area over and over again, and then completely miss something a little bit, to the south or north or whatever, like not very far, but like you just end up, because the geography just seems to guide you towards like going down the hill or away from the Bokoblin encampment or whatever it is,
or the lighting highlights one path.
Yeah, so I made heavy use of the Hero's Path thing to try to see places I hadn't been to yet. I did some underwhelming things like checking out the tablets in the sky, like what they said, like there's these tablets that you take a picture of with your camera, and then someone decodes them and it tells you about what Zelda's been up to. But then the reward is almost nothing, so that was sad. Like, I think I got like a cloth for my hang glider or something. I was like, well, thanks for nothing. This is worse than useless.
Because I think I bounced off of it right around where you are, because in the desert, that's where you have the different pillars where you have to connect them all and they like connect with light or something like that. Isn't that what you do?
There might be something, or like there's like some sort of puzzle where you need to count something. Like, I can't remember, but it's.
I just remember there being like 4 pillars out there, and you have to like make them connect in some way. Or like
I think you're right, but I think I did that part like a year ago, and so I don't remember it very well. But
I'm with you though. The sandstorms, they're just obnoxious.
Yeah. So once you clear it, the game gets better, in my opinion. It gets more fun. The only issue now is that I just keep feeling like I'm unprepared to take on the last boss. Also, the thing is, like, once you clear the 4 anomalies on the map, there's way more of the game left than I thought there would be, and that kind of broke me a little bit. I was like, oh no, like I was ready to just like go fight Ganon and be done with it, but no, like there's a ton of stuff to do in the depths, including stuff that I had kind of started scratching at, but the game doesn't let you scratch further than that because you're not at that point yet. I don't want to say too much, but like there's more than 4 anomalies, I guess. And so, so I did that stuff. And then again, like I was like, okay, time to go to Hyrule Castle, fight Ganon. Then I realized, like, wait, no, he's not here. Of course he's not here.
No.
And now, like, I kind of feel like reluctant to to actually go fight him because I know it's going to be hell. And because I keep feeling like, well, I could probably be more prepared than I am right now. And one of the things that I've been doing is I've been trying to level up this this piece of armor that is probably going to help me. Like once you get all 3 pieces of it, and you upgrade your armor enough, to level 2, it makes you more powerful. It makes your attack hit more. So I was like, well, that's going to be useful. But now I'm at the point where I have pieces of armor that have a rating of 20. And this piece of armor, like I'm only at 12, so I'm like, well, I should try to get them all to 20 to get good offense and defense. But then I look at the requirements to upgrade them, and you need 25 opals to get from level 3 to level 4, to get from the 3rd star to the 4th star for these pieces of armor. And at first I was like, well, surely I will gradually acquire opals and I'll be able to upgrade them, soon enough. And no, they just don't pop up for me. And I looked around, I looked at FAQs, and there's no one in the game can sell you opals. You have to find them. You have to fight, what are they called? The stone taluses. Tali? Anyway.
Yeah.
The stone taluses. I've done that, and including once I hit one, and then immediately it was the blood moon, so it came back, so I went to fight it again, but each time it gave me 1 opal. And it's just the most frustrating thing. I just can't find them. So I'm really in a weird love-hate moment with the game where I enjoy it when I'm enjoying it. I enjoy it when I'm actually progressing
something you like.
Yeah, when I feel like I'm doing tangible progress, or at least finding something cool. But it's kind of getting rarer, more and more rare at this point, because there are fewer what are they called? Not temples, shrines that I haven't found. And yeah, I just don't know how to go around and find more things. There's no one side mission that's going to give me what I need, the opals. So I don't know. For a while, I was kind of traveling around. I have the you can find something for your tablet, for your what did they call it? The Sheikah pad? No.
It's the Pura pad in this one,
Pura
right?
pad.
Yeah, because she's upgraded it, or it's a new version, or all the Sheikah tech exploded into nothing for no reason. Whatever.
Right. So you can set it so that, by default, it will beep when you're going in the direction of a shrine that you haven't found, which is helpful. Eventually, you can change that to almost anything, like a type of enemy or an object. For a while, I was just running around with beep when there's a chest nearby. Big freaking mistake. There are chests everywhere in this game. It was just driving me nuts. And it will beep when that chest is underground in a cave that you can't find the entrance to. And that's another thing. I kind of wish, I don't want the Ubisoft model of peppering a map with full of icons and go ahead and find everything on there. But I do wish that there was some way to get a little bit more help, especially with the stupid caves. Surely you've also had 1 or 2 shrines where you thought this thing is beeping, surely the entrance to the cave is near, and then it turned out to be
you're standing on it.
Actually, yeah, no, but it's actually way all the fuck out there, and there's no way you would have found it unless you looked it up or
There's 1 or 2 I ended up having to look up for that reason, because it was I scoured the area, I couldn't find it, and then when you look it up, it's actually the end of a long tunnel, but the beeping is where the end of the quest line is, which is at the end of the
There was one that I did not have the beeping because it was one of those where it's not a shrine until you make it. You have to carry the rock to the pedestal or whatever. But you can tell from the light routes where the shrines should be. So I had been working on that, and I wasted so much time. I don't know. I don't know if it's worth it for me to look up a map of Tears of the Kingdom right now, but there's one like in the top right corner near the Death Mountain, but more on the Zora side. So it's always rainy. So it's always like already like it's basically like I would climb up the mountain. It would be a bitch to climb because it's always wet. So it's always like I only have one piece of the armor that lets you not slide as much when you're trying to climb when it's rainy. So it was already kind of a pain in the ass. But I would just like go up and try to go around the mountain with the gliding down with the glider, trying to find some caves, and I would always find some caves, but they were caves I had already been in, and also like it was actually like this one cave with like 3 different entrances, so I would always end up in the same freaking cave that I had already found, and the actual entrance to get to the shrine was way the fuck down in some bog that I had never been to, and the entrance was minuscule. It was like, if you don't know it's there, you don't see it. I was so mad.
There's a few of those. And yeah, looking them up seems like the best answer, unfortunately.
Yeah. Anyway, I'm enjoying Tears of the Kingdom.
Good. I'm glad.
Hopefully, I'm going to be done by next week. Like, I did find enough opals to upgrade one part of my costume or armor of the wind, I guess. Anyway, and hopefully I'll prevail over Gan, and I'll finally be able to put this game behind me after 110 or 20 hours. And
that sounds sounds about right. Yeah,
and over like 14 months.
Well, yeah, that part's a little bit stretched out.
I should go back to this game.
You should,
but I don't like it. That's the problem. It annoys me.
And then we'll be able to finally do that spoiler cast that we
are never doing that spoiler cast. I don't remember a goddamn thing. It's been over a year. Come on.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry for not having the fortitude or the I don't know,
the
perseverance to actually play through the whole thing.
I'm not. Game's a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
It's just not enjoyable.
It's enjoyable sometimes.
Yeah. It goes out of its way to be annoying, I find.
Yeah.
Okay, anyway,
we can go,
Yeah.
John, do you have any new business?
Yeah. Playing, I did actually, speaking of games that I picked up, abandoned, and then finally went back. Not that I'm going to do it with Tears of the Kingdom. That game can burn in hell. But speaking of burning in hell.
Are you done?
But Diablo 4, I actually decided to go back and actually finish the campaign, which is hilarious because I think I've probably sunk about 100 hours into this game, and really all I've been doing is like side quests and like leveling and stuff like that. Like I haven't really, and it's funny, it's like I forgot how to play a Diablo game because Diablo games usually have a very perfunctory campaign that you can just blow through, and really Diablo 4 is no different. You can probably get through the campaign, I don't know, 10 hours, maybe 15 hours max. I don't even know, but it's very short. And I don't know why I just didn't blow through it, but for some reason I was like, oh, well, I need to do this before I get back to the campaign.
You wanted to see all the content.
Well, yeah, that's the thing though. I mean, it does, speaking of kind of the Ubisoft sort of thing with stuff all over the map, that is this game, right? So it's like you have, you have the main campaign quest, you have a bunch of like rando side quests, you have side quests that kind of pop up from people, you have side quests that start from items that drop off of monsters randomly, you have, dungeons and, kind of, sub dungeons, I think they're called, that, all of those things, they all feed up into various challenges that you can complete, and different things that you can unlock to augment your character with. And so there's just a whole bunch of stuff. Like you can just sit there and kind of go down the grocery list for hours and hours and hours. And so I think on my main character, which is a necromancer. I think I have something around probably 120 hours on that character, and I just beat the campaign not too long ago. So I'm pretty sure I put in over 100 hours on that character, really never touching the campaign. And the thing is with that is that if you don't play through the campaign, there's a bunch of stuff that's actually locked out. You get to the point, and the reason why I went back to the campaign is that I was getting to the point where there were certain things or certain challenges I was trying to complete, and I would get all but one of something, and then I would read up, and I would say, man, I can't find this sub quest or this dungeon that I have to complete, and I would read up on it, and it would say you have to complete the campaign in order for this to appear. And so that's when I said, okay, I really do need to beat the campaign. Because the thing is, once you beat the campaign on one character, for any subsequent character that you create, at least in the one-player mode, not the seasonal stuff, you have the option to skip the campaign if you want. Which I typically don't do. I typically play through it. But it kind of gives you options on rolling new characters. And also there's a bunch of stuff, too, that the reason why I'm kind of going through all this stuff with my main character is that I have another character, and there's certain things that are account-wide. So, you find these kinds of things, and any other character that you roll will already have, bonuses that you've unlocked by doing this stuff elsewhere on another character. But, yeah, so it's... So, I'm enjoying it. It's your typical kind of Diablo 4 brainless sort of watch numbers go up sort of thing. I do like the fact I picked it up on Steam, like I said, and I've enjoyed just kind of having that flexibility because not all of the achievements that you get, there's some achievements that are locked to the platform and then some are account wide. So I have a bunch of stuff I usually play on Xbox, so I have a bunch of stuff unlocked there. But yeah, so played through the campaign. Actually going through the campaign on a second character. But I'm enjoying it. You do see, though, I think one of the complaints about the game, and I haven't really been following this game or following the community or anything or the general opinion on it. There's certainly not a bad opinion around it, but I think that, of course, the seasonal stuff has started, which I really don't care about. I didn't care about in Diablo 3. I don't enjoy rolling a character just for the sake of rolling a character and leveling. That's too much of a grind for me. I'm not going to do that. And of course, that's what the seasonal content is. I think there is maybe some story stuff in the seasonal content or some semblance of that. I probably should try it just to maybe get the whole experience of the game. But I don't enjoy rolling a brand new character and then taking that character up to endgame status just for the sake of doing that. Some people love doing that.
Right.
I don't. I like to kind of get a character up to endgame and then kind of tweak that character and see what I can do with it and see how far I can push it. I don't enjoy the leveling process, really. I just do it because you have to. And so once you get to the end game, you have all the challenges and stuff across the map that you can kind of fill out, make sure that you complete everything, do all the side quests, do all this, do all that. There's that kind of stuff. The sort of 100% completionist stuff, but then there's also another level there's different tiers of worlds, so I'm on Torment right now, which is, I think, the highest, unless there's something beyond that, and when you really, really get really high, and level-wise. My character right now is level 94, I think, my main character. And so once you get to that point, you can kind of unlock, they used to be keystones in Diablo 3, but, or I believe they were keystones, but you can unlock things that items that allow you to, run nightmare versions, stronger versions of the regular, dungeons across the map. And then you also open up the pit, which is the kind of timed challenge content where, you have to, in 15 minutes, you have to kill X amount of enemies, and then it opens up a portal to the boss. And so the idea is that eventually you will get to enemies that are better than you, so you kind of hit the wall, and the gear that you have doesn't allow you to go any further. and then you gear up through other means and stuff like that. It's kind of like the challenge mode. And there's other stuff that unlocks around the map, where you can kind of trade stuff in. You can grind in certain areas of the map that are kind of affected by, Hell Tide and stuff like that, like, so with harder enemies and things like that. And then you get certain currency and you can go to other places and trade it in for like really, really good, for like armor caches and stuff like that may drop really, really good, armor. So there's just a bunch of kind of endgame activities, but I think the complaint with the game is that there really isn't too much to do at endgame. And so I think really what they're doing is they're saying, yeah, like that endgame stuff, really you should be doing seasonal content. And so that's why I'm kind of curious. Like maybe the seasonal content in Diablo 4 is better than it is in Diablo 3. In Diablo 3, it was kind of like, okay, there's like a cool armor set that you can unlock by doing a bunch of stuff. So I should probably try it out, but it's just, man, I'm just so turned off by anything seasonal, anything battle passy, like anything like that.
You sound exhausted.
I'm done with that stuff, really. Destiny 2 really, really, really killed it for me. Any of that stuff, when I hear the words battle pass, I'm like, oh, that's actually hard pass for me now.
Nice.
I just don't do it. I just don't do it anymore. It's just an artificial way to kind of, just inflate the length of your game. It just feels, the thing is, I would feel differently if it wasn't so copy and paste most of the time.
Yeah, it's about creating FOMO.
It is. It's FOMO, especially in Destiny where you have a certain number of days to unlock the content. Like I do like games, like, I think Halo Master Chief Collection does a really good job of this. I think Helldivers does a really good job of this, where they say, here's a bunch of battle passes. You can buy them, not buy them. They're available forever. You can unlock them at any pace that you want. It's, there's no FOMO, but I hate this stuff where this stuff is only available for 30 days, and you have to do it. Like, Diablo Immortal is the worst for that, where it's like, this stuff is available, this battle pass, you pay for this battle pass, it's available for 30 days, and the stuff that you unlock is only for that character. So you have to, so if you have 5 characters, you have to buy, theoretically, 5 battle passes and go through all of them in 30 days to get everything that you want for those characters. It's idiot.
And that's stupid.
It's idiocy. It's just stupid. That's, again, why I quit, one of the many reasons why I quit that game. Even though it is good, unfortunately, but yeah, I mean, they announced the expansion coming out, Vessel of Hatred. That's coming out, I think, in October. I'm gonna pick that up. Looking forward to it. Like to see what they add there, and it continues the story, which is good. But yeah, I'm enjoying it, and it's like, at least it's like a typical Diablo game. It's a good time waster, and you just sort of, there's a lot of times where you can just, run a dungeon and just turn your brain off, and just, especially with the Necromancer, where you can run these minion heavy builds where they pretty much do all the work for you and you really don't have to do anything. You just sit there. Like sometimes, like I'll sit there, if you hit a shrine and a whole bunch of monsters pop up in waves, right? I can literally just sit there and I can just put my joystick down and my minions just kill everything on the screen. I don't have to touch anything. So that varies.
Automatic gameplay.
Yeah, it varies by character, and also that's that particular build of the Necromancer that I have. You can completely not have minions at all if you want, and play totally differently, which is one of the cool things that you can do in Diablo 4 and any Diablo game really at this point. But yeah, I'm enjoying it. So I'm probably gonna wrap up. I might move on to something else, but once I get these 2 characters, I think squared away, it'll be sort of like something I go back to, periodically when I feel like playing it, or something new is added. But yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Cool. Greg, do you have anything you want to talk about?
Not a great deal. Obviously, I already mentioned about playing some of the older Mega Man games on NSO, and I did play Zero Mission. I played it dropped. I had to do it. If anyone's not familiar, I've spoken about it quite a lot over the years. It's probably the game I've played through the most times of anything outside of like Sin and Punishment, because that is really short because it's a shoot 'em up. It's very much like an arcade game. But yeah, anything that's not that short, Zero Mission is the thing I've played the most times, because it's just supremely playable in a format and a franchise that I've liked very much. Generally very easy. So yeah, I just went through that, unlocked the hard mode, and then beat the hard mode and got the 100% of the items. I mean, the first thing I noticed was just like, okay, I was thinking about the fact that back in the old days, I think you could do a kind of link up if you had Fusion and Zero Mission, and it unlocked like some ending arts that were in only the Japanese version of Fusion, because that came a bit later, and they did add some stuff to it when it came out in Japan, including the hard mode, which I kind of availed myself of when Fusion came out on the expansion pack a while ago. But there's a whole bunch of different conditions to unlock all those different like endings and stuff. So yeah, I think I had some of them from playing on the NSO, but I was thinking, oh, maybe I could do the link up thing, with two different switches or something. Let's see if this works. And then I found that they were simply unlocked from the start. So nice. That's a nice little it's a bit like the e-reader levels being unlocked in Super Mario Brothers Advance 4, Super Mario Brothers 3 on the NSO, or I think that was also true on the Wii U Virtual Console version too.
Yes.
So yeah, like it's less consequential than that, frankly, but it's cute that it's there because it kind of references some stuff that I think that had been in the kind of Metroid manga that Sakamoto had been involved with around about that time. So it's just got like, not just sort of, imagery from Fusion, but imagery from that comic book of like Samus as a little kid, like training and stuff. It's just kind of interesting to see it there in its original context. So there was that, and then really I guess the biggest thing that this particular way of playing Zero Mission brings to the table is that if you're trying to get 100% of the items, which is very optional from the point of view that the way the normal game is balanced, you really don't need to have a high percentage of the items to be able to beat the bosses, because they're just, it's tuned to be pretty easy. Even on hard, you can probably manage because you've learned the game a bit, right? So, because you can't choose hard from the beginning. You have to beat the game on normal to unlock hard. And so, it really is a case of just finding these things, for the hell of it, just to want to say you've done it. And some of them involve some quite fancy shine sparking, that like plays out over like multiple rooms, and, you're managing to be able to like, okay, you build up the speed, charge over this distance, like crouch on a little slope, right, jump a little bit, now boost again, right, now sort of you retain the charge again, boost over here now, like it gets quite, like, it started in Fusion, but they kind of take it to a little bit of another level here with just like really elaborately well hidden sort of things. And I do like that stuff. It's an interesting test of your skill at some of these kinds of mechanics, which isn't really like put to the test in, something that's critical to beating the game. But it can be tedious, and this is no coincidence, in a similar way to, Wario Land games where Wario is invincible. And it's like, oh, well, you're not dead, but you've got to, go all the way back to get lit on fire again so you can, charge over here really fast and eventually find the destructible wall or whatever it is that Wario like burns down now. Like it is, it's the same developers at R&D 1. I don't know what the group was called by the time Fusion came out in 2004. It might have already been kind of rebranded. It was SPD at that point. I forget exactly when that changed, but point is, like, yeah, this is a kind of gameplay idea that they kind of liked, evidently, where like, in Zero Mission, you know, like I said, you might have to trek back to this whole other room where there's enough of a solid ground to begin getting enough speed to do a Shine Spark, and then everything else follows after that. So it is nice to be able to rewind here. You know, you're not actually kind of cutting out, you know, anything that's really in the actual, the core test of skill to get this particular item, whatever it might be. You're just cutting out the trek back to the point where you can initiate that test, you know, so, you know, you don't, even if you're not looking to just outright make it easier, it's still a lot more convenient to retry some of these tricky challenges when you can just rewind it. Obviously, save states as well can accomplish that. You know, when you know it's coming, you know, so that would have been true back on Wii U Virtual Console, for instance. But still, the rewind has got that little bit of extra convenience of, like, even if you weren't, you know, sort of prepared, like thinking, oh, you know, I remember this bit and I need to kind of make sure I can come back here to, like, initiate the thing. Just being able to rewind at will when it's like, oh, yeah, okay, yeah, I see now. Let's just roll that back and get straight down to the, you know, and what you find, you know, this is something that's true anytime with the kind of when you're learning something. It just, you get better at that thing so much quicker when you chain the attempts together quicker by cutting out that little bit of friction of like, oh, well, no, I messed it up. Now I've got to trudge back to where it actually starts. It's just, yeah, and again, this is super optional kind of stuff, much more so than in one of those actual Wario Land games where it tends to be, you know, more crucial parts of, you know, finding your way through those games. But you know, I'm kind of more looking forward to playing stuff like, Wario Land 2 again, because they have three is there on the Game Boy NSO app, but not 2 yet, right? So, or even 1, actually. I think 3 is the only one that's there, not in Wario Land 4 isn't on the Game Boy Advance app. So, you know, I'm looking forward to, you know, play through some of those again at some point. I think I might start with 2 because I remember when that does eventually get there, because I kind of remember that being my favourite of the bunch. But it's been quite some time since I've really played any of those there, so I'd be interested to reevaluate those as well. But yeah, Zero Mission is predictably very much as I remember it, just a great, speedy, brisk experience of just very supremely playable Metroid action without being terribly challenging while he's at it.
Oh, cool. Anything else?
No, that'll do it for me.
All right. Well, I think it'll do it for us as well. As we mentioned at the beginning of the segment, my audio had a hiccup. So if you want to listen to email, it's a little rough, but it's there. Hopefully you can make it all out, but I apologize for that. But, Greg, what music are we going to close out with?
Well, so, you know, I do like to use requests relatively close to when they come in if I can, because, you know, they tend to be relevant at that sort of time and just to make sure that they don't slip through the cracks. But in this case, I found one that, you know, was not used immediately after, just other requests and things going on. But we have a little bit of an in now with the news that, you know, we have playable Zelda in a new Zelda game, Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. It brought me back to a request that was made back in February from Spencer, tying into the release of the RZ game, Jewel of Faramore, which of course was a game that was patterned on the CDI games. So, yeah, the somewhat infamous deal that Nintendo made with Philips, you know, but loaning out some of their characters to Philips to make games out of, including, you know, stuff like Hotel Mario, and yeah, 3 Zelda games actually, although Zelda's Adventure is a bit different, right? Jewel of Faramore is based, you know, just on the kind of the two, I think Link Faces of Evil,
the cartoony ones, and
Zelda Wanda Gamelon, right? So that's, you know, kind of, there was the inspiration, it was developed, you know, essentially kind of came out of developing unofficial remakes of those games, and so that's like the genesis of it. And in fact, I mean, you look at the reviews of this game, they're generally pretty positive. I mean, certainly, the NWR review, I think, was an 8 out of 10. So it's kind of interesting to see, considering obviously the reputation of those CDI games is really dreadful.
I played one of them. It's bad.
No, I've never had the chance myself, but it's the developer in question, Seth Fulkerson, under the developer name of CDI Software. So
God.
And CD as in, kind of like a CD bar or something, and I as in the organ. So, pretty naked about what this game is meant to be, and they did the animated sort of, videos, just the same style, and they even got some of the voice actors back and all that. But apparently in terms of the gameplay and everything, they've actually managed to, kind of create something that's a great deal more playable and enjoyable.
To have gameplay.
Yeah, I mean, it's a kind of interesting notion, this sort of redemption arc or something, for, that kind of thing. I think that's really interesting. So, but the song that was requested was actually originally used in a reveal trailer from back in 2023, but then its part in the game is actually as the forest theme. But the music itself, I think, is made by sort of goes under the handle of Button Masher, and does a bunch of rearrangements of like Nintendo stuff and whatnot, and you're trying to sort of capture that kind of feel of the era, that this was coming from, and doing a pretty good job. We'd see on the basis of this anyway.
All right. Well, now it's time for us to go. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Later.
Bye-bye.
Hello and welcome to Radio Free Nintendo. It is June 27th, 2024, and I am your host, James Jones. I'm joined today by Mr. Guillaume Fayette.
Hello, hello.
Mr. Greg Leahy.
Ahoy, hoy, everyone.
And Mr. John Lindemann.
It's great to be here, James.
Great to have you, John. It's episode 881, and we're going to get right down to listener mail. So, listener mail. You send us a question, a comment, a thought, an idea, something for us to ideate over, something to put content into our fine program here. And we then potentially use it on our show. But how, John, does one deliver content to this show?
You send electronic mail to rfn@nintendoworld.com. RFN@nintendoworldreport.com. That is RFN. Sorry. Me saying electronic mail just threw me. However, it is electronic mail.
You never saw it coming.
RFN@nintendoworldreport.com. RFN@nintendoworldreport.com. Enjoy the information superhighway, people. Enjoy it.
Well, that was a thing. Okay, so we're gonna get right down.
I think that ship sailed on the enjoying it responsibly bit.
Yeah.
It feels like it. All right, we're just gonna get into reading them then. John, I'd like you to read the first email.
Certainly.
Really?
Ryan
you
writes,
want him to write to read the email?
We're just gonna.
It's a hell of an audition, I gotta say.
I'm warmed up. That's the thing. Like, James actually brought me in. I was, a little bit cold. I'm good now.
We're already on the ride, Guillaume.
All right.
Ryan writes, "Hello, fellow console war vets. Namco Bandai just stealth dropped Baten Kaitos and Baten Kaitos Origins on Steam, and it seems to be a disaster. Per the thread on Resetera, Reset era. It had a miserable 90 concurrent users after launch. Why would Namco do this? It's baffling to put money into a port and then throw it in the Steam garbage bin. It's a waste of money. Please, explain Namco to me if possible. Cheers.
News. They didn't put money into the port. This port is terrible. There's just issues all over the place with it. I think the more interesting question is, why did Namco Bandai feel like the right day to release this port of a game that was originally funded by Nintendo was hours before Nintendo's Nintendo Direct, which is when they released this. And the best I can come up with is this was the equivalent of a Friday news dump.
What are the problems with it?
I believe there is no control for frame rate.
Wow.
It is uncapped and does not account for that. But also, it's a 480p game that was upscaled, so it probably looks like trash. The game does not appear to be a well-handled port.
Yeah, well, already the Switch port was left something to be desired, didn't it?
The languages thing was weird.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know what else. People seem pretty cool on the port.
Right. That's the thing. Like, once I saw just people were cool on the port, I was like, well, I don't need this. I still have the original.
Yeah. That's kind of where I landed. Like, I would like a port that maybe offers a little bit of usability to the game, because certainly they could use it. But that does not appear to be what this is at all. So, even just as an opportunity, excuse me, even just as an opportunity to play it more conveniently than you could having to pull out a GameCube, this doesn't feel like it delivers on that in a meaningful way. So why just dump it on Steam? Well, probably because the terms of the deal that allowed it to be this port to be made probably stipulated they needed to be allowed to release it on PC, but also they were probably aware of what they had made and knew that it wasn't very good and didn't want to draw too many eyes to it.
Meaning the port, not the original game.
Yeah. Like, they made the deal to make the port happen. Nintendo got it first. It was on Switch for a while. But then they were allowed to release it on non-competitor systems, i.e. PC. And my guess is Namco Bandai realized the port didn't have the effort needed to make it comparable.
It's weird where Namco has been dropping the ball lately, because there was that Pac-Man museum thing that I forget the exact name, but it came out on all the platforms, and it was bad on all the platforms. It had just this lag issue that's kind of inexplicable. Like here we are, or here we were in 2023 when that was released, and these old arcade classics that were that would run on a fraction of the power just are laggy and leave something to be desired. It's like, what the hell? I kind of found it slightly unplayable because of lag. Because if you introduce lag to something like Pac-Man, like what are you left with? The gripping story. There's there was also like the whole like replacing Miss Pac-Man with Pac-Mom, which we got at some point a question like, what was the worst kind of character replacement in a video game? And we completely forgot Pac-Mom.
Well,
but that's the answer.
They wanted you to forget Pac-Mom.
Yeah, and I did.
Forgetting our Pac-Moms, I believe was the name of the episode. So here's the comments on the port. A and B are swapped for Xbox controllers. You cannot change the frame rate, so it tries to run at the highest frame rate that it's capable of running. The game.
What is that based on? Is that based on your CPU or what?
I would assume so, yeah. It basically just tries to race the system.
That's really weird. So that means it could run really fast if you have a really fast CPU. Or I guess at really
it
high frame
rates. It almost
rates.
certainly would, yes.
Yeah.
But the game's probably not coded to handle those frame rates. Because it was meant to run on a GameCube.
Right.
So what's going to happen in that case?
Fuckery. Things that are set to like timers and stuff will be undoable. Like a lot of the things in this game. So that would be neat. The game will pause if a window loses focus and may not unpause when it regains it. Soft locking you in the pause menu. That's cool. I like that. That's a neat feature. Yeah, as things that are mentioned here, it's pretty amazing. Nintendo is not mentioned on Steam or in the marketing, but in the game, copyright Nintendo is present.
Well, that's good.
Nintendo wanted to be nowhere near this thing. Now, like it's like two questions. Why did Namco Bandai release it like this? Which I would also include in this state. And number two is why did they release it within 12 hours of Nintendo's June Nintendo Direct? A date they've undoubtedly known about for a while. And the only answer I can come up with is they knew it was bad. They wanted to put it out, not making a lot of noise or upsetting Nintendo, so you release it before the Direct so people don't expect to see anything else about it or stuff like that. Why is it bad? Because Namco Bandai didn't feel like it was worth putting the money into, and also the company that made it's not there anymore. They're at Nintendo. Making God knows what, probably another Xenoblade game.
One hopes. Or at the very least, a disaster Day of Crisis.
I mean, that's too much to hope for.
Yeah, I agree.
The world's not ready for that.
Yeah, the world, it's not a perfect world. Key,
You know that
I'm aware.
You know that meme of the world one day after, and it's just whatever random thing, and it's just like a peaceful world.
Mm-hmm.
That's the world one day before a release of Disaster Day of Crisis sequel, and then afterwards is the Hell Crater. It's the world 1 minute after Disaster Day of Crisis releases. It's just like looks like fucking Nightmare Plague. Yeah, I mean, I think the answer is this is a fundamentally unserious effort by Namco Bandai. Or Bandai.
Yeah, I got
Namco, whatever they're called. Go ahead.
No, well, I don't know. I guess they're hit or miss. Like they're still a very big company. Like they don't always miss like this though. So it's really just a matter of they didn't prioritize it. They didn't. But it's weird that like who asked for the Switch port then? I'm guessing it was not Namco.
Spin.
But they did such a poor. I actually don't know. Like our site didn't review it, but it doesn't sound like they did a great job. So, like,
I would think if Nintendo wanted it, the job would have been done better.
Sure.
So my gut is Namco probably asked for it,
and then they changed their mind. Was there a big shakeup at the top of Namco?
They just asked for it, and they gave it no budget. They said whatever money it makes, it makes. Maybe their plan wasn't for this thing to make a bunch of money. Maybe it was just like a cash grab. To do as little as possible to get it up and running. And the answer was not to anyone's desire. To say the least.
Well, I guess we didn't have much to say about this question.
No, I mean, it's interesting that it exists, and like the reality sometimes when we get questions like this is just, yeah, it sucks. Now, it's sucking and it not getting a lot of attention is probably quite fine for Nintendo because what they don't want this to turn into is the opportunity for people to ask, so Nintendo games are coming to PC? Because Nintendo does not want Nintendo games on PC. That takes away the advantage they have as a console manufacturer.
Yeah. Well, I guess this isn't really the first bad port out there. So I mean, why do bad ports happen in the first place? Well, I don't know. That's often hard to answer, right?
A lot of times there was money to be made cheaply.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It's it's not always in the hands of people that take it seriously.
Yeah,
I'm on the Namco website right now.
Mm-hmm.
There is mention Baten Kaitos 1 and 2 HD Remaster for Nintendo Switch Steam, but it is well below. It's not in featured games, which of course is like Elden Ring's DLC, Dragon Ball, Tekken 8. But yeah, this is well under That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, Gundam Breaker 4, Pac-Man Chomp Champs, and Sword Art Online. So yeah, I
can't even feign interest in Sword Art Online.
No,
that's a bridge. If you feign interest in Sword Art Online, you're a braver man than I. Because that's just garbage. That's actual garbage. Like there's garbage, and then there's that, and that's that. So, don't do that. Don't friends don't let friends play Sword Art Online. Is what I'm saying, or watch or consume. Ugh. It's just gross to think about. I do think that everybody involved is quite content for this thing to quietly fade away. Nintendo is quite content to not having originally Nintendo published game draw a lot of eyes being published on PC. Namco Bandai is quietly washing away their shame of a bad port. They probably decided they wanted to do it, one, because they felt like the Switch's audience was deep enough that being able to say, from the creators of Xenoblade, would get it enough sales to justify. And maybe there was some kind of rider in the contract. It's like, oh, we can also do PC. I don't know.
But also maybe there was some sort of rider in the contract that you cannot mention the fact that it's from the team that made Xenoblade. Because I don't remember that in the marketing.
Maybe. They did when it first showed up in a Nintendo Direct, I believe.
Okay.
But yeah, lately, no. Alright, well, that's that email.
Yeah, I did. I remembered reading reviews, so there's having some interest in it, and I remember there being some quality of life changes at least, which I found mention of them here, which is about a pause menu that lets you increase the game speed up to 300%, disable enemy encounters, activate auto battle, or infinite damage. So. Yeah, it sounds like presumably, some of that kind of grindy battling can be mitigated in a way of your choosing, by the sound of it. It seems like there's some sort of sensible addition, but equally, not necessarily, the most lavish remaster, imaginable, but then it'd be hard to expect that for this particular game, or duology, 2 games.
It's really too bad too, because I think that many companies, including Nintendo, have realized that there's a lot of pent-up demand for GameCube games on the Switch. Like, it seems like we're at that part of the cycle where people are very nostalgic about the GameCube.
Well,
actually,
but
it might
also
be a little bit too late.
Also, you say pent up, and I think that's the key word, right? Because, when you really think about it, it's kind of bonkers that when you go back to the launch of Wii, right? So Wii launches at the end of 2006, and it's going to have, shortly thereafter a virtual console service that has N64 games as part of it, right? And that was only 10 and a half years after N64 launched. We are now 23 years after the GameCube launched, and we have never had an equivalent service for GameCube games.
Right. So instead, what we've gotten is Metroid Prime Remastered. What other GameCube?
There are many. Of course, there are.
Right.
Pikmin 1 and 2. Most recently, we had obviously Sunshine, though James is steadfast in his attempts to erase it from existence. Did feature in a game that Nintendo was steadfast in its desire to erase from existence.
We came together in our shared desire to erase Sunshine.
the Super Mario 3D All-Stars. Obviously you've had things like Luigi's Mansion coming back as a 3DS game, various things over the years. And so it's not as if that demand has been ignored, over, quite a period of time. You had a series of kind of GameCube games come back as Wii games with slightly different controls, including, the Metroid Prime trilogy, the Mario Tennis, Power Tennis or whatever it was called, the GameCube one, and Donkey Kong Jungle Beat with a, adaptation for not having the bongos anymore. There's various ways in which they've come back in, the better part of 20 years, but it still kind of speaks to the fact that there's inevitably with those sorts of approaches, and I mean there were gaps obviously with things like Virtual Console or NSO today, but the gaps will be bigger when you've got the this sort of patchwork approach of just bits and pieces of games coming back and getting remastered over the years, rather than any kind of concerted effort to say, here's a wide, representation of our games in that period. Which, yes, GameCube was less successful than the N64, but it had quite a lot more games in total, I believe. Looking at all the third-party games and whatnot, as well as Nintendo's efforts to kind of, as we've covered many times, to try and get games out faster and publish more things and make more partnerships and so forth. And, what happened where they got sort of caught short a bit, in the N64 era. And so there are still, things that are, quite, at least to those of us who were around at the time, kind of core GameCube titles that haven't come back in any form, such as F-Zero GX, I think would probably be one of the main ones I'd think of.
I think that would be... I think there are a handful that are still out there, but that's one that I feel like isn't going to suffer from 20 years of history quite as badly. I'm still trying to figure out what the deal was here though. Why did anybody try to is it really just that you're right, that nostalgia kick is here and it's people love Xenoblade. Am I missing something?
I really don't know. Maybe maybe Namco was hearing
games in the moment.
No, but maybe they were hoping that there would be retroactive fondness, or maybe they were hearing the clamoring from certain people for the Skies of Arcadia remaster, and they were like, well, maybe that nostalgia is transferable to our own game.
Oh man, I mean there are Monolith games that Namco Bandai controls exclusively that people want. It's not this set. But I don't think we're going to get a Xenogears trilogy re-release or whatever you'd call it. Xenogears HD, 2D, whatever. I don't know. That series does go places though by the end, so maybe not. Or even Square Enix having control of Xenosaga. They could do something, but they won't. Nobody will. Those games just we had the email about Chrono Cross last week, but Xenosaga is another one where Square Enix is just I don't know. That game's huge. What do you want us to do with it? So we get these two, which I like both of these games. In fact, I talked about one of them on the show, relatively contemporaneous. But
yeah, and I had an attempt at a playthrough of the first game quite recently, and then I gave up again on it slightly later than my first initial giving up on the game. But I still, now I'm out of the rhythm of playing it. I don't think I can ever get back to it. It's been at least a couple of years now since I attempted that last run. So maybe I should get this port, and kind of try not to mind the voices and stuff, and just use that, what was it, Destructive Battle? I forget what we said. Infinite damage battles or
infinite
whatever.
damage. Disable enemy encounters completely. Auto battle. It's crank the speed up to 300%. Sounds like there's a fair bit there that like again. I mean, it's a little bit like these were features that were built in like to Bravely Default, at least when it came over here. Like I don't know whether it was in the original version of Bravely Default, but the version that we got for the sequel or whatever, like you could just turn the enemies off, couldn't you? At a certain time. So like it sounds, I kind of like that where it gives you different ways of changing, like of mitigating how kind of time consuming battle is going to be, because people will have different preferences in that way, like whether it be some people might not want to turn them off altogether but just make them faster. With Bravely Default, I always had the policy of like, once I've mapped somewhere, I turned them off. Like that, it was like the random battles could play out as many times as they naturally would, as long as I hadn't actually mapped the entire like floor of a dungeon or whatever. Once I had, the enemies ceased to be by the power of my mapping.
Yeah. I mean, these are all very like, yep, this is a modern re-release of a RPG. Yeah, I don't know. This is still, like, even knowing why it exists, it's still a weird project that I think nobody loved. So here it is. Do we want to hit the next email?
Sure.
All right. Greg, would you please?
Sure. So PPKO writes, "My dudes, do you think Nintendo would or should rebrand the Legend of Zelda franchise? Would it be wise for them to name all future games in the series by some other title that is more focused on Link instead of Zelda? She has, after all, never been the protagonist." I talked about this last week. "And has on occasion been entirely absent from a game bearing her name. It's not uncommon for people," parenthetically normies, "to know of the Legend of Zelda series and even recognise Link, but still think that he is Zelda. For the sake of brand recognition, is it time for Nintendo to enter the era of the leggings of Link?" Thank you, autocorrect.
Well, yeah, so we talked about it. There is now a Zelda game that has Zelda as the main character, but I do think it is time to rename the series. I don't think you need to rename it to be something more Link-oriented. I think you just need to rename the series to keep it fresh and original, and that's why I'm suggesting we rename the Legend of Zelda series simply Theodore Rex and do whatever the fuck we want to it, as long as there are talking dinosaurs in every game going forward. That is the end of my presentation. I will take no further questions.
I say it's too bad that this is happening now, well after Nintendo has given up the idea of letting you name your save file and therefore your character. Because there used to be a time when you could play as Zelda in The Legend of Zelda, and if that's you named your character Zelda. And then in the Game Boy, in Link's Awakening, if you put in your name as Zelda, all caps, it would give you kind of a funky, weird remix version of the music on the save file screen. And there was something like that on the NES game, right? Like, did it just like immediately send you into like the second quest or something?
Yes.
Right.
What if the game retitled itself whatever you named your character? So, like, the title screen changed. Now, there is a game...
That's the next obvious step, yeah.
There is a game that does this, and it's very stupid, and I've talked about it. It's Disaster Report 4, where at one point you're asked... The game says it will grant any wish you ask, and you get 3. And one of them is, I want to end this game, and the game just rolls the credits and ends.
That's great.
One of them is, I would like to change the title of the game, and I can't remember what the third one is. If you pick, I would like to change the title of the game becomes Disaster Report 5 on every surface that shows up in the game, including the main menu. Forever.
Nice.
So what if you could just rename your... Like, if you named it I don't know what would be
the horse of Show Pony.
Yeah, the Legend of Show Pony. It's just you name a character Show Pony and bam, there it is. Legend of Show Pony, right on the screen.
Incredibly, the Triforce does not grant 3 wishes in any depiction.
It doesn't. It grants no wishes.
Well, we've seen it grant wishes once or twice, but not 3. Definitely not.
Right. Well, I think maybe James worded that. Yeah, like you can choose from 3 specific.
Yeah,
wish,
it doesn't
right?
give. It doesn't really give you. It's no 3 component to it. It's just supposed to like read your mind or your heart and make that reality. Basically, it's not even so much like conscious wishing.
So you're saying like if the wrong person touched the Triforce and it didn't just explode as it is wont to do, and that person's mind was in the wrong place, we could have ended up with the sequel to the movie It's Pat? Is that what you're saying?
That's the thing. You're never really sure, what's going to happen with the Triforce. Is it going to split into separate pieces because the person that took it isn't quite right to have all of it? But
all of a sudden, you have to fight the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man.
Yes, that is a very. You couldn't help it; just popped in there. I mean, what could you do? So I guess I'm just surprised they haven't worked considering 3 wishes is such a cliche. I'm surprised that the Triforce didn't have at some point in some depiction some kind of element of offering you 3 something. It could have been 3 choices like Disaster Report or 3 actual wishes, but no. It's funny though because like the Zelda history of titling is kind of strange because in Japan the original title was The Hyrule Fantasy, The Legend of Zelda, right? So it's interesting that they didn't choose to keep. It could have been that the Hyrule Fantasy was the name of the series, and it was simply the first game that was The Legend of Zelda. And then when you moved on to the next one, it could have been something, Hyrule Fantasy, something else. But of course, bringing it over to the West simply as The Legend of Zelda and it being a success, well, that kind of complicates things. And they actually handled it differently, Zelda 2, in the different territories. So I believe in Japan, it was The Legend of Zelda 2. Right, whereas in America it was the abridged Zelda 2. There is no legend anymore. It's just, the legend's implied, that, right? It's just Zelda 2, Adventure of Link. Now, the thing about that's interesting is that Zelda 2 is the first, and certainly not the last, attempt by Nintendo to go, why the hell did we call it The Legend of Zelda anyway? Perhaps we should attempt to justify this with the events of our new game and then invent this new backstory, which is like, aha, it truly has been The Legend of Zelda all along. And yes, that is something that still is happening with very recent entries, shall we say.
I think maybe they were like following Rambo First Blood Part 2's lead, but then they didn't see the swerve. They had an opportunity to from then on call it Adventure of Link 3. They didn't take it.
Yeah, well, it definitely there's been plenty of curious naming conventions and all sorts of things going on over the years. But I mean, the point is, for whatever reason, they've never quite sort of, it's almost like they recognize that it was, why did we call it The Legend of Zelda? But rather than thinking maybe we could change it, as PPKO suggests, the answer is in fact to double down. And so, well, now you can't argue that it's called The Legend because look at this story that we've just told. Which is, how successful that's been, is another, but certainly Zelda 2 is very much that, because it's like, oh, well, actually, Zelda is not one person. It's every princess there's been in Hyrule for generations. And, Skyward Sword is really playing into that very hard as well. And I've not played this game, and I don't know how many of the listeners have as well, but I heard something, and I might have been misconstruing it because I can't contextualize it, having not been, familiar with it, but that actually Final Fantasy 16 attempts to do something similar.
Really?
I don't recall that.
All the times. With 16 and they're finally like, but have you thought about what being the Final Fantasy means?
I mean, I've completed Final Fantasy 16. I can't think back to what exactly that would have been.
I hesitate to say what I've heard because maybe it is more
they all reuse all of the, like Ifrit and all of those characters, right? They're all, over time, it's sort of almost been like an unwritten, canon that all of this stuff kind of comes from the same universe, roughly. It's like
even though they've been so different, right? Like the Final Fantasy games have been extremely different from one to the next, and so little continuity. But I can't speak to that in detail, unfortunately. But the point is, like, Nintendo has remained invested for whatever reason in that brand, and I guess the biggest thing is now that. The fact is, Breath of the Wild, and even, Tears of the Kingdom, not sold as many copies of Breath of the Wild, but it's still sold many more than pretty much any other Zelda game ever, right? Mm-hmm. It's a step change for the franchise, a new day of what that franchise is capable of. So I would say between the fact that they've sold so many units, recently, and them kind of the ways in which they kind of double down on the name having some kind of deeper meaning with some of the things that are in Tears of the Kingdom. It seems like have never been less likely to change it. Even though I think the whole idea of now that we've got a playable Zelda as a protagonist in a game, it does kind of show that, maybe there would be an argument for it, because I think, the trailer from the Direct, it was very cute and mostly rather effective. But it was a little bit undermined, I think, the moment where, Zelda kind of recovers from running away from the creeping shadow realm, whatever's going on there, that was like eating the ground as she was fleeing from where she'd been kept captive. And then, she kind of recovers and stands up and starts looking over, her kingdom. And then the title emerges, The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom. It's like, if that title was more different, it would have had more of an impact, Like, it looks like a standard Zelda logo. I mean, if you're really into Zelda, you're gonna pick up on the fact that, Wisdom, that's her bit of the Triforce, right? It's saying that because she's the playable character now. But that's a bit, with PPKO talking about quote unquote normies, it's a bit inside baseball, that, you know what I mean? I mean, if it had been a more drastically different, either literally the title or something about the logo or whatever it was, I think it did, it was kind of building, the music swelling, and then it's like the reveal of the title, and it does work, especially for those of us who are enthusiasts and know a lot about the series. But I just kind of I don't know, it didn't feel like it had quite as much impact as it could have done if that title was different.
Nintendo didn't change the title for Link's Awakening, a game where Zelda does not appear in 100%, she's just not in that game. So if they didn't change it for that game, they were not going to change it.
No, exactly.
Although, if they were going to change it for Echoes of Wisdom, I would propose Zelda, The Legend of Zelda story. I think that fits really well. If you want, have a side story with different character or whatever, that's perfect.
The word Zelda in it 2 more times. I think it needs to be in there at least 4 times to drive the point home. Zelda story. I mean,
sure.
At this point, story's just in the way, so you can replace that with Zelda too.
And I also find it kind of curious that, there were a number of games in the past that were quite comfortable. It became kind of a cliche or a recurring thing to work Link into the title, right? Even though you could name your character something other than Link. Whereas since Link has now become, he's he's not just a player insert character. Link is his name. You can't change it, which has been the case with Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom. They have not worked Link into the title. this. Whereas, of course, Link Between Worlds, Adventure of Link, Link to the Past, there were quite a lot of them years ago.
I'm trying to think. I guess maybe they've just decided to drop the puns. And it's we're not gonna do any more Link puns. Maybe it's just.
Well, it's not a Link pun, but Tears of the Kingdom is a pun.
Is it?
The kingdom is in 3 tiers: the sky, the surface, and the depths.
I didn't even realize that.
All right, that's gonna do it for email this week.
It's really obvious.
You can send your angry emails that you're now drafting in your brain.
Yeah, I don't know what I feel worse about: the fact that I didn't figure that out, or that it exists.
The answer is yes. You feel bad about all of it. That's where I'm at.
Yeah.
I hate this email now. I hate this email now. I'd go back to my original answer of just The Legend of Theodore Rex. We did it. That's what it should be. It's a good movie. You should go watch it.
No, don't watch it. I refuse to be complicit in this, to condone this.
Right now, and go watch Theodore Rex, and then come back afterwards with your notes.
Everybody makes choices.
And I just made a choice for you to go watch Theodore Rex. It's very good.
Whoopi Goldberg made the choice to try to bury this movie forever, and she was unfortunately unsuccessful.
You know what? That's why we got to keep it alive. We got to keep the memory, the legend of Theodore Rex alive from people like Whoopi Goldberg who want to bury it.
So they reused the costume from that dinosaurs show.
Yes. Yes.
And was it in that? Was it in that universe?
I don't know.
No, I don't think so.
I think it was,
wow, that's even worse.
It was in that universe of we have access to the costume department from dinosaurs.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's amazing.
It's a buddy. It's a buddy cop movie.
It sure is.
Whoopi Goldberg in tight leather.
It's an allegory for racism too, because Whoopi Goldberg doesn't want to work with one of those dinosaur cops.
Wow.
So you're telling me someone actually ripped off Alien Nation? Is that where we got to?
You're not wrong.
So this is great.
That's why
Theodore Rex
can't touch water. Huh.
Right from the start. No-nonsense police detective Katie Coltrane, Whoopi Goldberg, lives in a futuristic world where dinosaurs coexist and communicate with humans.
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. Dinosaurs, which have been extinct for millions of years, they somehow exist in a futuristic world.
Haven't you seen I know you have, John. You've seen the 90s Super Mario Brothers movie. They're just in an alternate dimension now, and presumably at some point, Xenoblade style, they fused together, and that gave us buddy cop dinosaurs.
Oh man,
it's an excellent film. Robbed at the Oscars, just robbed. That tells an important story for today's era about buddy cops and dinosaurs. And I can't remember what his catchphrase is. I just remember it's very annoying.
The robbing was not enough. It should have been beaten up and left in a ditch.
In a 2015 interview with a Brazilian newspaper, Goldberg stated that this is the only film that she regrets having done. "Don't ask me why I did it. I didn't want to," she said. Goldberg also said it made no sense for anybody to like it.
It's what? It will when it's the new name of the Zelda franchise. Mm-hmm. They're talking about making a Zelda movie. No. We're going to make movies into the Zelda franchise.
How do you know that isn't the Zelda movie?
That's right. It turns out that when they re-release Theodore Rex in theaters as The Legend of Zelda, Theodore Rex, suckers are going to sign up for it. You're going to go see it.
I mean, but that is the point, isn't it? I mean, with the movie coming out, that's an interesting sort of branching point, I guess, for how you brand the series and the awareness of the series, isn't it? Because it's like, well, if you have a movie and it was actually popular, would that negate the need to worry about people not knowing who Link is and who Zelda is anymore? Because it's like, oh, well, everybody knows the movie and that makes it clear, so that puts that to bed. Or does it just...
You can be pretty sure that in the movie, the princess is going to have a little bit more agency than in the first few games anyway.
The first few games, okay. I was going to say, she has plenty of agency in the later games. That's the problem.
Yeah, right.
I'm gonna go break this seal. There's nothing wrong that could happen. Oh no, everything's gone wrong. Yeah. So Theater X wouldn't break the seal on an ancient tomb. Absolutely not. He would just knock over expensive vases with his tail. That's why we need to make this change.
That's part of what makes him charming.
It is. You're right. It's his can-do attitude and his can't-do tail.
Please tell me that's the actual tagline.
I wish. That's way funnier than anything in this godforsaken movie.
The tagline is actually, the world's toughest cop is getting a brand new partner. He's a real blast from the past.
A 1994. He's so intensely 94.
It's terrible.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure that it's Whoopi Goldberg's head photoshopped on somebody else's body in the movie poster. I'm pretty
There was
sure.
quite a lot of that with movie posters at that time, yeah.
So,
I love the way that that's actually more stupid than the kind of parody of that kind of thing that was in Last Action Hero, where like Danny DeVito is a cartoon cat that's like somebody's buddy cop. Like, the animatronic dinosaur is way dumber than that. Last Action Hero insufficiently cynical about other action films, evidently.
I like that I was able to force this email to be about Theodore X instead of the topic. I'm very proud of myself for this. This is an important accomplishment on my RFN list, right up there with firebombing Google AI overviews. So yeah, that's a good name for the series. I mean, I guess you could go with what would be another good 80s or 90s film to name the Legend of Zelda franchise after?
Legend? The Legend of Legend?
Yeah, isn't that the one that it's quite... I'm assuming that is at least part of the reason why that ended up being the title.
Mm-hmm.
The Last Boy Scout?
The Legend of the Last Boy Scout?
I love it!
The Legend of Rambo is up there. You can go with that. Very, very different game.
One thing that we haven't talked about with the Direct and Echoes of Wisdom is, because Zelda is the protagonist now, does she get to speak?
She's lost her voice, presumably.
It's also like Mario and Luigi, the first superstar. So, well, maybe she hasn't had her voice replaced with bombs, but still, she has to keep stum now that she's the protagonist.
It's the Little Mermaid. She got her wish granted to be the protagonist, but now she has to complete the game without being able to speak.
Yeah, when you become the protagonist of a Legend of Zelda game, you lose your voice, but that's kind of a blessing because now inanimate objects or fairies can talk for you and explain to you how you feel or whatever it is, or tell you the percentage of chances that something is happening. That's always great.
I knew how to feel at all times. That'd be extremely helpful.
Mm-hmm.
It'd just make it more disappointing when I didn't feel that way.
Well, if you need to feel a different way, you can always just think of your good friend Theodore Rex. And that'll give you the exact feeling you're looking for at that moment, which is insubstantial.
By the way, you can't stream Theodore Rex anywhere.
What?
Good!
Just FYI.
What? Did we find...
We are not in the worst timeline. That's good to know.
Did we find an unstreamable movie?
I don't think...
there's plenty. Anyway.
Yeah,
there's a lot that's not streamable out there.
It's not available for streaming anywhere.
That feels like that should be on Tubi.
Have you checked the Criterion channel?
Cry spelled CRY.
Exactly. Yes. What's the IFV? The Film Institute? Do they have a streaming service? Because, I mean, it could be there.
Probably not.
The phone is connected.
I just saw James Jones leave the conversation.
The call disconnected. That was.
Yeah, well, I thought it was a mic drop, to be honest.
It should have been.
Yeah, I thought, like, wow, James made this conversation too stupid even for himself, and then decided to quit.
I was busy trying to figure out what the name for the Film Institute is. The top 100, which should just be this Theodore X, and then just stopped. We did one.
The American Film Institute?
Yeah, the AFI. Yeah, the AFI streaming service should have it on. Like, I'm actually more dumbfounded now that there's not a streaming service that has it. That seems crazy.
There's tons. I mean, yeah, like even good movies, are not streamable. Yeah. Or like classics, you can't even rent them. A lot of anyway. A lot of Quebec movies that are actually well regarded or like by people you might actually know, like Denis Villeneuve, are not streamable because some American company bought the rights and then they're not interested in releasing them for the small market that's over here. So
I think I've seen most of his early films, but I think there was the one. Is it the one that's got like August in the title or something that I've not seen? It's one of the earliest.
Theodore Rex has never been released on Blu-ray.
Damn.
A 32nd of August on Earth or something?
Yeah, that's the one I haven't seen, which is, I think, the earliest that I can recall seeing in his filmography. But the other ones like Polytechnique and so forth I've seen.
Yeah, or Jean-Marc Vallée. Like, anyway, like there's a lot of... I am not surprised at all, I guess, is what I'm saying, that Theodore Rex is not streamable.
Yeah, believe it or not, there are many more injurious examples, shall we say.
Yes. Hold on. Yes. But I do guess, I do get James's point that Tubi should have this, but there's a lot of bad movies that you'd be surprised Tubi doesn't have.
Yeah, no, I agree. But this is an intensely Tubi film. But
sure.
I saw that you might be able to stream it on Amazon. You cannot. They're trying to sell you copies. However, gentlemen, I suggest to you, you could buy instead the This Is Really Happening collection, Zany Animal Family Friends, Theodore Rex, and Gooby, which apparently the name of the movie is Gooby, and Harry and the Hendersons Special Edition 3 DVD Family Fun Bundle, all of them directed by William Deere. I mean, you'd have to be crazy to not want that deal. That's deal of the century. I don't even know what the fuck Gooby. Oh my god, it's a bear.
For some reason, Harry and the Hendersons was always on TV in the 90s.
It was.
And it was never good either.
It's bad.
I never wanted to watch it. I never saw it and thought, like, I want to sit down and watch the rest of this.
I always saw it and said, I want to not be watching this. So, I think that's fine. It's got the...
A big part of why kids back in the 90s played outside more than they do today is because of Harry and the Hendersons.
You had 5 channels and it was on 2 of them. Oh my god.
I was waiting for the broader point, but yeah, I mean, that specifically may have made a non-trivial contribution.
Or the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids TV series, which was also just fucking terrible. It was on all the goddamn time. I mean, all the fucking time. But hey, Harry and the Hendersons does have John Lithgow. And that's something.
Yeah, he was also the villain in Santa Claus the movie. So it's just like, bad things happen to him at times.
I just said it's something.
He's wonderful and stuff, John Lithgow.
I tried to watch Santa Claus the movie last year.
Yeah, that was one of those that was, you want to talk about being ubiquitous on television, British TV, around Christmas, you couldn't escape, even though by the time I could remember anything, it was already, it was quite a few years old. But, that had to be on there. And I believe, in a bit of branding genius, the evil corporate person that Lithgow plays in that comes up with the idea of Christmas 2. long before that was a shorthand for the end of the fiscal year when a bunch of games get put out because you got to make your numbers up.
All right.
So that's when people band that about these days, just remember Lithgow got there first.
As we're on Lithgow, I was thinking, what about Cliffhanger?
Oh,
the legend
it's a corker of a movie.
Cliffhanger. Are you telling me you're not going to fucking buy The Legend of Cliffhanger? You're going to fucking...
I would.
Isn't that already a game?
There were video games of
Crisis?
Cliffhanger. There had to be.
Disaster Day of Crisis isn't as stupid as Cliffhanger. What do you think about that phrase? Disaster.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, yes. It's always no. I think they're both exceedingly stupid in their own ways. I wouldn't like to pick a winner in the stupid sweepstakes.
You can even be in the sweepstakes with Disaster Day of Crisis.
But absolutely, that is one of the core movies that it's, reference. It's one of the big pillars of that age of 90s action, nonsense that Disaster is riffing off.
The Legend of Cliffhanger: Hang On, which was the...
Yeah, that's right. That's the poster where the tagline is like 50 times bigger than the title of the movie. It's just "Hang On" in huge letters, but then like Cliffhanger and Stallone are like really small somewhere. Truly one of the weirdest bits of branding and advertising I've ever seen.
Legend of Tango and Cash. I'm just saying, it's right there. It's right there. No, we're trying so hard to name things, but why don't we just use names that have already been named? The good names.
That is pretty much the entire entertainment industry's approach.
Billie Jean.
Billie Jean.
Oh yeah, so with the movie with Supergirl
right there,
right?
Yeah.
So I've never seen that. I know it exists, and apparently it's not terrible, but I've not seen it for myself.
I just need to go through every film Terry Hatcher was ever in and figure out if they are the right name for the new Legend of Zelda franchise.
I mean, Steven Seagal movies like The Legend of Under Siege, The Legend of Art to Kill.
The Legend of Treason, yes, I'm here.
The Legend of being a Russian stooge, yeah, that's a good one.
So my theory of I'm just going to go through Terry Hatcher and find the next Legend of Zelda name. The Legend of Vitaminamulch, Air Spectacular. What the fuck is this? What the fuck is this? It's a short spin-off of Planes, which is itself a spin-off of Cars. Holy God. This looks terrible. Oh yeah. We're getting there. We're getting to the new name. The Legend of Desperate Housewives. Stunned. The game's gonna sell 1 billion units. Alright.
The Legend of Next
Email? The
Email?
Legend of the Next Email, yes. Go for it.
Alright. One writes, "Greetings, fellow Nintendo aficionados. I've been rewatching Jump Superstars and Jump Ultimate Stars videos, which I played to completion on the DS long ago, and I'm of the opinion that they are the only titles worthy of competing with the Super Smash Bros. Series, which is funny because all these were published by Nintendo. There are several titles that have attempted to capture the magic of Smash. I'd say the closest non-Nintendo published game to capturing it are Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl and its sequel. Still, they are, in my opinion, inferior to the Jump games published by Nintendo, although much better than Bandai Namco's Jump Force. So, with all these games, I couldn't help but wonder, what kind of Smash-like games would you like to see, and from which medium? It can be from video games of another medium, like cinema. For example, a Western all-star with Marshall Will Kane. Oh, yeah, okay, I don't know these wrestlers, I guess. No, is that wrestlers?
Western characters. Rooster Cogburn. We've got Rooster Cogburn coming up. That's a true grit.
A Western all-star with Marshall Will Kane, Reuben J. Rooster Cogburn, Colonel Douglas Mortimer, Blondie, Django, Franco Nero, this means nothing to me. I'm sorry.
Well, he means the Franco Nero Django as opposed to the Jamie Foxx Django, right?
I see. Okay. Harmonica, and so on. What kind of quote-unquote final Smash-like attacks would you give to the characters? I'll give you another other example from cinema with main characters from 80s movies. An all-out brawl with John Matrix using a rocket launcher as his final smash. John Rambo piloting a helicopter. John McClane, anything that involves him saying yippee-ki-yay. Marty McFly traveling from the past from
DNA.
Wait, what? Traveling from the past to return to the future with a steam train, and so on.
The joke there was there's a significant plot point about him not having sex with his maternal ancestor.
The biggest thing is who let those fools write, Zemeckis and Gale created Back to the Future call Marty McFly Marty or anything other than John, because apparently you had to be John back there. You had to be John and then something more outlandish. It had to be the least sort of outlandish name possible. John
Dick would be,
and then. And then the most outlandish name, because later on, I mean, John Matrix, good. John Spartan from Demolition Man, excellent. That's a good one. So,
punch.
Yes. So, yeah, I mean, the 80s stuff is hard to turn down, obviously. For me, we've talked a lot about this sort of stuff over the years, but for me, I think the whole 80s is a bit too broad. You got to narrow it down somewhat. And so I think canon films, which pretty much are exclusively because I mean they were trying to create their own little all-star universe. When they got the rights to Superman and how well that turned out. We talked about their attempts to make Spider-Man and Captain America kind of did happen, but it was only after canon ceased to exist, and that is quite a film. All these think we could. Maybe, draft in, some of those known characters. But even the ones that are just homegrown from the artisans at the Canon Group, we've got any number of Chuck Norris and Charlie Bronson characters that you could go. The biggest one being, of course, Braddock from Missing in Action. I think you'd have to have Chuck Norris in that form, probably.
I stand by my statement that their final smash would just be Gun.
Yeah, that's a lot. It'd probably be a lot like the Duck Hunt Final Smash, is it? Where all the kind of targets, from Hogan's Alley emerge and they get shot, except it'd just be, bikers. Wouldn't they? There'd just be people getting shot. That was very much the kind of spirit of that particular time, wasn't it? It was just no, but I mean, the thing about canon is they did have a certain amount of variety in their nonsense. They had Bronson, and you'd have to have Bronson as Kersey from Death Wish. Braddock for Chuck Norris, and then you've got a bunch of other things that they did. But you've got like their Indiana Jones knockoff, Quatermain with Richard Chamberlain. So like you've got that covered. So you've got superheroes covered. You could have Patrick Stewart being possessed by a hot alien vampire from Life Force. Yes. I mean, what more do you want? They had everything. I don't know where it went wrong.
Good movie. Did they have that?
Yeah, it's called American Ninja.
Oh, Dudikoff. Well, how do we get this far and not mention Dudikoff?
Oh, God.
Yeah.
All right.
And also, if you one obviously mentioned Franco Nero for a Western theme one. Franco Nero, star of the I think it was Enter the Ninja, their other ninja franchise. You've got to have more than one. You got to have American Ninja with Dudikoff, and then you got Enter the Ninja, which then gave way to Revenge of the Ninja, which then gave way to Ninja 3, The Domination, where the girl from one of the Breaking movies gets possessed by a ninja, and it's kind of like an Exorcist movie, but it's also kind of like a ninja movie.
Oh my God. That's painful. See,
absolutely scintillating scene where a Japanese samurai sword is floating in midair while we're all meant to be sort of dumbstruck in awe when you can quite clearly see the strings that is holding it up.
I'm reminded of some films from like the 60s and 70s where it would be cheap like that, but you're like, it's fine, they're being experimental. But then I remember that the same crew is responsible for the Apple. And I'm just like, I wish I could go back in time and erase these people from existing. Because what a fucking nightmare. See, I think the idea of basing it off 80s films is interesting because you do have things like Cobra, where it could just be like, yeah, I don't know how many other characters are in the game. Cobra kills them all in the opening cinematic. It's just you walking around alone. So it's a biting commentary on Cobra's style.
I think the final smash, the final smash in that would actually be the Bridget Nielsen music video that happens in the middle of that movie for almost no reason other than he was married to Bridget Nielsen.
That's a good reason. I'm trying to think what would be a franchise that adapts well, and why the answer isn't. I'm just gonna write that. Why the answer isn't like just make a Rocky themed fighting game like this.
Well, it's been done, hasn't it? It's I mean, not in a Smash Brothers way, obviously.
I mean, Smash Brothers style platform fighter.
So I'd tell you what, you wouldn't be able to get Mick in it, would you? Can't he? I mean, he only has to fall down the stairs and he's dead. Poor old Burgess Meredith.
What if he dies every match opening? It's like every match opening, you just get to watch him fold into life.
Yeah, that's like, instead of Mario coming out of the pipe, it's Stallone coming in over Mick's body on after below the staircase. Go, Mick!
Even between matches, like when they do a side change. Oh, that's not they do more tennis.
Yeah. Rocky's final smash is not being able to throw in the fucking towel. Yeah. And then Drago kills the other player.
Oh, man.
We're making cinema!
Nah, I mean, I was thinking, too, that you could, instead of doing it around films, you could do it around a certain actor. So you could do, like, Clint Eastwood. And you could have him in there as Dirty Harry with his, his final smash. His final smash could be, do you feel lucky, punk?
I like this idea because it's a bit like with K. Rool in Smash Brothers, right? Like he's mostly his DKC 1 version, but then like for one of his moves, the pirate hat from the second one emerges. So it's like, yeah, you can have an actor and then like for different special moves, their costume just like comes on them as they perform that signature thing. So yeah, I mean, Clint. The problem is so many of whatever different characters they had, a lot of the time the verb was still shoot things.
Yeah, but that's the whole thing, though. I mean, you got I was thinking and I'm going a little bit deeper here into his oeuvre here, but Every Which Way But Loose, where he's the bare knuckle fighter with the orangutan.
Yes.
Right? So you can have the final smash be the orangutan comes in.
Yeah, Clyde, I believe it was, right?
Yes, yeah. Clyde the orangutan.
80s action movies with pets fighter brawler series.
Oh, always good. You could do his character from Firefox, where he's like, the Firefox jet could come in, you could do Will Money from Unforgiven. I mean, you could do a lot with Clint Eastwood. He's made a lot of some dubious movies in there.
Yes, definitely. But he's been in a lot of stuff, so that's it's pretty hard to compete with.
What are some other good animal sidekick films? I mean, obviously you've got
Turner and Hooch.
Yeah, Turner, BJ and the Bear. There's so many. There's so many. You can just put them all in. Mascot Fighter Central, where you play as the celebrity, and their special attacks use the animal in question.
Yep.
One thing I strongly feel like if you did the 80s action star version, I would say assist trophy at best for Seagal.
No, that's fair.
And in the spirit of like being able to kill assist trophies, he shits himself before he leaves the screen because of that famous story about him getting chokeholded until he voided his bowels, having boasted that no one could choke him out.
I need to figure out like what other dumb series of Speed. There's only 3 of them, but the Speed cinematic universe screams for a platform fighter.
There are 3 Speed
I think there's
movies?
a third like direct DVD one.
Definitely 2,
for sure.
But
Yeah,
the Keanu didn't feature, but Sandra Bullock did. But I've not seen it.
Scott Speedman, yeah, of course. I know all about Speed too. Yeah,
Who doesn't? It was Jason Patrick in the second one, right?
It was,
Yeah.
Shit. Who's Scott Speedman? Then?
Wait, you're talking about Jeff Speakman, the Ultimate Weapon?
I think I'm okay. Maybe I just
there's
saw
only one Jeff
Speedman. It just makes
literally
sense
the Ultimate Weapon.
Some guy named Scott Speedman would be in Speed 2.
We looked
but
at
maybe he's from.
We looked at his resume and thought it's Gizmo. It's got.
Okay, he's some guy who was in Underworld. I think he was the guy who's not Kate Winslet. What's her name? Kate
Beckinsale.
Beckinsale.
Oh, that's it, James. You could get behind the sexy women action sort of crossover. That's
shit! Are you going to suggest like Mia Jovovich entirely? Smash Brothers, where
yes.
It's just Mia Jovovich, but from her different movies, including The Blue Lagoon.
All right.
She was the sequel or something?
The sequel, yeah.
Yeah, because it was Brooke Shields in the original.
This is where Ultraviolet fights, the Fifth Element.
Yes, and 7 different versions of the Resident Evil character.
Alright, so the answer on Speed 3 is, there is not a Speed 3. However, Keanu Reeves has been quite clear that he wants to make one with Sandra Bullock.
Keanu's final smash is that he makes a very short video loop of him fucking punching the shit out of you, and it just keeps happening and happening and happening until your head explodes in a sort of Mortal Kombat kind of way.
Oh, see, that's more creative than most Mortal Kombat. And
they're pretty creative from what I've seen, just in a really ghastly way.
So I'm afraid to say that, Greg, you planted a seed earlier in the episode for me, and now for me, 80s movies, I haven't caught up. I was too young to watch all those big action movies.
But you're never too old, Guillaume.
I know. I will catch up at some point. I do have to be on my TV. I can catch up with, the entire oeuvre.
Most of them are an hour and a half long. They're easy to watch. That's the whole thing.
I think once you have cogent thoughts, you're too old for Speed 2.
Yeah.
The movies that I did grow up with were actually Santa Claus the movie and Superman the movie. But I was thinking, what if the entire Alexander and Ilya Salkind oeuvre was Smash Brothers, the basis for Smash Brothers, and so you get all the bad Superman characters, but of course they can't get Superman in their Smash Brothers because he's already in the Warner Brothers has him.
So it's always just the guy from The Man from U.N.C.L.E. or whatever.
Well, you can have who's in Supergirl.
There's quite a lot of really famous people in that, Faye
Peter
Dunaway
O'Toole.
and Peter O'Toole, and isn't there
so Peter O'Toole, Mia Farrow, Faye Dunaway. Ilya Salkind, his entire thing is just the fucking Superboy TV series, Supergirl, Superman. You could play as Richard Pryor. He's got skis on and he always falls off the ledge.
His final smash is inventing the red kryptonite, right? Isn't that what he does in that movie? He's a computer genius, and he
All I remember is that for some reason on their high-rise building, they've got a ski slope, and he just ends up sliding. He's on skis. He slides off. He just ends up on the streets of New York with the skis. He survived the fall somehow. And that was a complete misuse of Richard Pryor, by the way. I don't know why he was in so many G-rated movies. It doesn't make any sense.
For it. It starts with D and ends with rugs.
I see. I didn't know where you were going. I was dollars? Money? And I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, Superman 3 is fucking atrocious.
But so you get those characters. There's side characters from Superman. You get Annette O'Toole. Sorry, not Annette Bening. Annette O'Toole.
Yeah, she's the Smallville love
Lena
interest
Lang.
from the third. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. But also, I think that they can get the rights to Santa Claus.
Yes,
I think that they can put Santa
finally.
Claus in there. Yeah, and of course Dudley Moore as an elf.
Yes.
It's all, I don't know, it's great.
Oh my god.
Patch the elf that gets recruited by Lithgow.
Burgess Meredith? What's his name? Burgess Meredith?
Yep.
So
Yeah,
he
he's
can be
also
in
an
this
elf.
and
Oh my god,
Oh my
yes,
God.
Mick
This is
himself.
This is too
Yeah.
much. This is too much. I'm trying to think what other properties would belong in the arena fighter format, and I think the answer is probably something along the lines of what if you could just take take all the characters out of one game and put them into this format. So if you take all the characters out of a Mario Party game and put them in a Smash format game, is that a fundamentally different product? No, it's the same game. Jesus Christ. I don't know. I don't know what to do to besides throw weird movies at the screen. Like, what if you could just get Raul Julia the best hits? Smash Brothers. Like, that man, if any man deserves it, just make all of his characters or his main roles playable characters and call it a day. Be excellent. But no, we're going to get fucking Richard Pryor in Superman 3 instead. What's the subtitle on that one?
I don't think there is one, is there? It's only the fourth
I don't think
one.
there is one.
The Quest for Peace, which is where it goes from Guillaume's suggestion back into mine, because that was Golden Globus, and we could get Nuclear Man with the voice of Gene Hackman.
Oh man, you get 2-for-1 Hackman deal.
No, it's Luther Hackman, but then also I can't even remember how Nuclear Man. How that happens, but for some reason it does
So Superman is going to rid the world of all the nuclear weapons, but Lex Luthor put some gloop plus some strands of his own hair on the nuclear warheads, and so Superman throws that into the sun, and then Nuclear Man makes his way back to Lex Luthor somehow. I don't know. Something about that. And also, somehow, Superman can build walls with his eyes.
So, throwing them into the sun is probably a sufficient way. What a cinematic masterwork. You took me on a journey through your storytelling,
Well, I'm glad to have done so, but I hope that you'll still watch the movie.
Oh, of course. Of course.
Yeah, it's probably on Tubi.
That's been the solution to all of this. It's probably on Tubi.
Yeah. If it's shit,
turn it off. What if we took all of the movies on Tubi and put them into one giant arena platform fighter with crossover and stuff?
But like the original Tubi movies, where it's always like some woman who gets betrayed by her husband who's cheating on her, but also wants to kill her.
Her husband is John Lithgow, and the new guy that she's with is Harry of Harry and Henderson's fame. Go. I need this in my reboot. I need my reboot to cross-contaminate with non-rebooted content. That's the goal.
I see that less as a Smash game and more as a kind of one of those asymmetrical horror multiplayer games that have been. I guess.
I'm trying to think if there's anything that would actually be interesting in a Smash game that's not already there. And it's not really. But I don't know what series you could trigger, trigger the appearance of a Smash by just being I'm going to push these together, and now everyone's fighting everyone else. Except for Rocky 3. Because Rocky 3. Superman 3, because I think everybody wanted to fight at the end of that movie. At the end of making that movie, to be specific. Not the end of the story sequence. I think it's just such a bad film. But Jaws, that's it, we did it, Jaws. Jaws is the answer to this question. All the Jaws movies together, they are the characters, and you just see the shark go across the bottom of the ground. Yes, that does mean we get to Jaws the Revenge.
Sure, but I tell you, somebody's not in Jaws of Revenge, but I think is underrated for this would be Scheider. Because I mean, you've got Jaws Scheider, but then you've got Sorcerer Scheider, where he's driving the truck full of nitroglycerin over a rope bridge. Like, that's a final smash, like, definitely. And you've got that helicopter movie, there's Blue Thunder or whatever, which is watch that in the 2020s, and it is a riot. Like,
well, it's Roy Scheider. It's classic.
Yes. The main problem, I think, with the Jaws Smash Brothers is that, like, the same boring people who always want, like, Final Destination, no items, will always want to play on the bigger boat stage. Which is just annoying.
Maybe the boat's randomly generated.
The items are just, the compressed air tanks and shit like that.
All right. Any other representation for film?
I think we're more than good.
Damage, I think.
Yeah.
Where's Waldo platform fighter? You just can't find him in the background. Think about the gameplay possibilities. Stealth in a platform fighter.
Because the problem is, after a certain point, it's like if you did the action movies of like the late 90s aughts, all the characters would look the same because the Matrix just had an outsized impact on one thing. Although, to be fair, actually, Blade kind of got there first, didn't it, with Snipes?
Yeah.
So that was very much just like everyone's in black leather and all that. So then it's like, okay, so that was quite successful, right? So, you know, I mean, I don't want to downplay that having a role, but definitely once the Matrix blew up, like, forget it. Then obviously when you had like the X-Men, that's what they look like, and God knows how many Matrix imitators and everything. Just like that, everyone's going to look the same. It's going to be, you're really going to be relying on the sort of coloured outlines or whatever to tell your characters apart playing that crossover game.
Yeah, all the stages are really dark because in the 90s all the movies had to be shot really dark to hide the special effects that were not quite up,
yes,
what we're...
Well, to hide the fact that it was just a backlot, back when they didn't really have the... This is, a bit earlier than The Matrix, really, but, all those movies like, Burton Batman, it's the fucking Super Mario Brothers movie, you get where it's like, yeah, we've got enough of a, whatever it is, like an old industrial site or a backlot at a studio where we can build a bit of a city that it's meant to be happening in, but it all needs to be at night.
I'm just thinking, there's got to be like an action film series we're missing out on here. That's really stupid. That would be excellent for this. And I just over the top. I need an over the top arena fighter, but all the special.
Okay, not over the top the movie.
Yes. Isn't
there's only so many characters in that one, though.
But that's fine because you're going to put so much effort. I mean, you can make up new characters that would have existed in that universe. Star Wars doesn't.
Also, can just fold into my Golden Globus one.
But I feel like it deserves more. I feel like it deserves the opportunity for when two characters meet in the middle of the arena and grapple up. I mean, you know what's going to happen.
And the final.
Sorry, I didn't mean like the Sylvester Stallone over the top. I meant the TV series Over the Top with Tim Curry and Annie Potts.
I meant
but
wow.
I understand.
I want
Guillaume. You are out in left field, my friend.
I want an arena fighter where the primary form of grappling is arm wrestling. That is what I am here for.
Nobody else is.
Well, it's just, you don't see the vision. You don't see the vision.
I guess not. I guess I don't see
here
it.
with your fucking Escape from New York platform fighter or some bullshit. No.
Wow, Escape from LA. Give me a little bit of credit.
Why would I do that? Why would I give you...
I mean, if you're not surfing,
the worst film. Yeah, okay.
Come on, man.
There's got to be one of the worst comped scenes in I've ever seen. For something from the 90s as well. It looks like the comping on that surfing, but it's so ridiculously bad. Oh,
so bad.
Where is my Angels in the outfield arena fighter? If that's what you're after, John, fuck it. Let's go. Let's get fucking.
What did you want to just go full Field of Dreams? gems. Is that what you're saying?
Costner, come on!
Costner does have some gems.
God, but think about all the great levels you could have from Costner movies, like Waterworld, Field of Dreams, No Way Out, I don't know.
The Postman, Dances with Wolves.
Oh my god. And we have the Smash stages where you get on the platform and it flies around like a door. What if it just flew around to all the baseball arenas he's been in various films?
Yes.
Rather than make their own stage.
This might be going too far and be a little bit not inside baseball, but okay. So a Smash Brothers based on Terry Gilliam's movies, but it doesn't really work well. It's really unbalanced because no matter what happens on the screen, it's Sarah Polley who gets kind of blasted off the stage. Okay, sorry. Yeah, it's a little bit too. There's a big thing about how Terry Gilliam was very cavalier about her safety on the set and didn't.
I remember Sarah Polley from stuff, but not which Gilliam film she was in.
Oh, the Baron Munchausen.
Oh, but yeah, that's actually not one of the ones I've not seen. Right, yeah, with John Neville and very young Uma Thurman, I believe. But yeah, I've not seen that one. Right. But Sarah Polley, I think she was in Existence. I think that's where I mostly remember her from, maybe. But God, yeah, that's just a blast from the past. But Gilliam stuff is, it's pretty out there. You know, if you think of like Brazil, creating a stage or some sort of thing like that, that'd be pretty good.
Why don't people make good movies anymore, like Brazil? Honestly, I could pick much worse movies to make that joke about, but.
So, or it could be, like on the Time Bandit stage, when you win, then you just go home and see your dead parents. No.
Yeah,
anyway,
congratulations.
Was it 12 Monkeys, I'm sure, could yield some sort of feel-good final smash. We've released a plague that kills almost everyone on the planet. Wow. That's a big knockout.
Situation improved? Alright, well, emails. That does emails. We're done emailing. No more emails. Emails are closed. You can send your emails to rfn@nintendoworldreport.com. That's rfn@nintendoworldreport.com. That got really weird, so we're just going to move right.
Yeah, emails are closed as in we're done with emails, right?
No, next
forever.
Week. Send them in. Dumber the better.
Okay.
Bury us in your stupidity. That's rfn@nintendoworldreport.com. We could have an email-based arena fighter. As you send emails, they fight each other. It's very artistic. Did we want to do new business?
I did, but...
Okay.
Anyone else? No?
What'd you got?
I mean, I don't have a lot. I don't have a lot.
What'd you have,
Well, brief thing, Mega Man and NSO, I guess. I could skip it.
It's fine.
Some arcade games, Baby Pac-Man, TMNT, Pinball, Attack from Mars, and Captain America and the Avengers, but mostly Tears of the Kingdom. I got back into Tears of the Kingdom.
John, you said you have a little bit?
I don't have much. I've just been really just putting some time into Diablo 4 more than anything else.
We'll take a break here, and when we come back, we'll do a little bit of listener mail, so stay tuned. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1...